Friday, Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Hey guys, my name's Megan if you're new here, and if not, welcome back for episode 13 of Killer Weekend, where each week I'll discuss a true crime case and you guys can feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments box below. If you like all things true crime, conspiracy theory, UFO and paranormal, please do hit that subscribe button and I'll be here for you every Wednesday and Friday. And after all that, if you're still craving some spooky content, do follow me on Instagram at Megan True Crime. I also have a TikTok, embarrassing, I know, at megan.truecrime. I promise I don't get my bum out, I don't wear crop tops, so we're all good. I'll make a small disclaimer before this week's episode. It does involve details of emotional domestic abuse and also violent crime. If that's a trigger for you, please turn away now. So we'll now dive into this week's case. And as we grow up, we all seem to watch these American movies about the American teen dream, such as football players getting with the cheerleaders. I know one of my favourite movies growing up was Bring It On, and I knew every rhyme religiously. So definitely it's something that's instilled in us from a young age that this is the American dream. But what if it's all not so pristine as it seems on the surface? What if deep down one of these varsity jocks is rotten to the core? This week, guys, we'll be discussing the death of Emma Jane Walker. Emma Jane Walker was born in Knoxville, Tennessee on March 20th, the year 2000. She was the first child of Jill and Mark Walker, and she was soon followed a couple of years later by her younger brother Evan. Emma was a naturally happy child. She grew up around her family, they were extremely close. Her mother even described her as being extremely silly, and she didn't give a crap about what anyone thought about her. Her brother looked up to Emma as she was a straight A student, and she did really well when she went to high school. She was a naturally nurturing person, and she had an amazing connection with babies and old people and animals in particular. She even had aspirations to become a neonatal nurse. This was a great passion for Emma, and she was working at a local supermarket just so she could save up and pay her way when the time came for her to go to college. As a young freshman in high school, she loved dance and she was really passionate about dancing, so she decided to put that skill into being a cheerleader, and lo and behold, much to her surprise and her friend's surprise, she was actually the first freshman in a long time to get on the cheerleading squad after auditions. She took her position on the squad super seriously, and all of her teammates said that she was really dedicated to doing her best for the squad. So here she is, she's this beautiful blonde, big eyes, this massive toothy grin, she's absolutely gorgeous, and you would see her being a cheerleader and be like, oh, she's one of those girls, but she wasn't one of those girls. She was super nice, and everyone said she just fit in with any kind of group. She had loads of different friends from different types of life, and this was something that a lot of people admired about Emma, and this beautiful nature also caught the eye of a junior who was named William Riley Gaul. His friends called him Riley, so that's what we'll call him in the episode, and he actually played for the football team at high school as well. He saw Emma cheering one night and his eyes were just drawn right to her. Who can blame him? She was gorgeous. At first, when he met her parents, he seemed like a proper gentleman. He seemed to say his please and thank yous. He was opening the door for her, pulling out her chair for her at the dinner table, and her family thought that this was a really nice, like, handsome guy. He had a good set of friends behind him, but he wasn't your typical jock. He actually had a lot about him. He was really intelligent, really funny, and he had kind of like a nerdy side, like a kind of geeky side. He wasn't your typical kind of male chauvinist and goatee. That just wasn't who he was as a person. It was almost like he was from a completely different way of life than the other guys on the team, and he just lucked into being quite athletic. This kind of dual personality did attract Emma, as she herself was quite similar. She was this blonde beautiful cheerleader, and with that comes a lot of stigma, but she just wasn't the kind of girl that you would expect her to be either, so it was quite a match made in heaven. or so it seemed. One of the first bumps in their young relationship seems kinda petty now, but when it all adds up, it does kind of point back to a certain type of behaviour. You see, right before Riley and Emma got together, he actually had another girlfriend, and he had promised to take that girlfriend to his junior prom with him. And then when he met Emma, he decided that he wasn't going to change these plans, and instead of taking Emma, his now girlfriend, to the junior prom, he decided to take his ex-girlfriend regardless of how that made Emma feel, and Emma's friend said that she was really upset and basically stayed up the entire night crying about it. So already, red flag number one. Emma's parents were a little bit pissed about this as well. They thought that's not really how you should treat someone, and yeah, if you made a promise to someone, fair enough, but you're no longer together. I'm sure the girl could have gone with her friends. Also, what kind of girl who has some self-respect would want to go with her ex-boyfriend knowing full well they have a girlfriend? Like, who would do that? Like, I'd be like, no thanks, you're okay, we've broken up now, it's okay. After a short while, other things started to happen in the relationship and it seemed to be taking quite a dark turn. Emma's friends noticed that Riley never wanted to spend any time with them as a friendship group. It was always just Emma on her own, and when she would try and integrate her friends into the plans that they had, he would get really annoyed and really possessive. This is something else that Emma kind of noted in the relationship to her friends, is that when she was out with her friends, he was constantly messaging her, and if she didn't text back quick enough, he would fly off the handle into a rage. On one of these occasions that she didn't text back quick enough, he actually texted her a message saying, "Check the obituary, you, and you're the biggest bitch I've ever come into contact with," which was a massive overreaction on his part. But Emma would always make kind of excuses for him. They would be very on again, off again. They would get back together, they would break up. They just had one of those really fiery, tumultuous relationships, which was really toxic. Emma's close friends would note that he was extremely clingy and would even hang outside the supermarket where Emma used to work for hours. Like, he would drop her off and then wait her entire shift, sometimes for like 4 or 5 hours, and then wait outside to take her home, as if he didn't trust her and he didn't think that she was actually going to work when he dropped her off. He would send Emma messages on the other side of things after they had one of these big blowouts and he said something that went a little too far. That kind of apologetic, emotional messages. And when Emma wouldn't respond to this, he would then say things like, "I can't live without you, I'm going to end my life," things like, "I'm going to hurt myself," stuff like that that really wasn't normal. And Emma's mum and dad were deeply concerned enough to ban him from the home. They said that Riley was no longer welcome in the house, and they hoped that this would perhaps deter the relationship from going any further. But teenagers being teenagers, and Riley acting like some 40-year-old man who was grooming her, actually bought her an iPod Touch, which, if you guys don't know, an iPod Touch was kind of like a music device, but you could also kind of tap into it through Wi-Fi and receive and send text messages through it. Because who would buy, like, those were expensive. Like, whose boyfriend is that stressed out about not contacting them that they spend like hundreds of pounds on something just so they can send them a message when they'd literally see each other in school like the next day? I'm not liking him. In 2016, when Riley finished up high school, Emma's parents finally got that sigh of relief. He's going off to college, even though it was only about 25 minutes away. They thought finally they're getting a bit of distance between them, and maybe this is exactly what Emma needs to finally call it a day and make a clean break from Riley. But Riley was really not up for that separation, even though when he was away at college he managed to party and take loads of selfies with random girls, and Emma eventually saw one of these photos on his public Snapchat. So it is clear from that he wanted her to see it. He wasn't hiding it. It was on public forum. It would be like someone posting something on their Instagram story for all to see, and he really didn't really care how Emma reacted to this. It was almost as if throughout the relationship the two fed on the drama, and we will get into it because even though Emma, God rest her soul, is a victim in this case, in the relationship, was she 100% the victim? We'll touch on that later, but definitely you could tell the two were really feeding off of this high school drama and the adrenaline the relationship gave them. Whilst Riley attended Maryville College in Tennessee, not too far from where Emma lived, he was really struggling with the fact that he could not keep tabs on Emma 24/7. So when he retaliated with these pictures of him and girls, and Emma finally ended the relationship and for once seemed quite serious about it, this flew him into an absolute rage and an absolute panic. He was really stressed out about the fact that she seemed really serious. This was different than any of their other breakups, allegedly, and he wanted to get control back of Emma. He wasn't used to her standing her ground and ignoring him for long periods of time, so to not hear from her over a weekend was not good enough for him. One weekend he decided to come home, and that was the weekend of the Friday the 18th of November in 2016. He was bombarding Emma with texts the entire night to the point where she had to actually block him. Emma was attending a friend's house party that night and she just wanted to cut loose. I mean, at this point now, Emma and Riley have been on and off for around 2 years, and she's now a junior and just wanting to enjoy her last couple of years of school, and he just won't let her have that. So she blocks his number and hopes that that'll shut him up for the rest of the night. But then, later on in the night, he's not done. Emma starts to receive anonymous text messages from someone stating they've kidnapped one of her loved ones. They sent a message to Emma saying, "I've got someone you love. If you don't comply, I will hurt them." Emma initially is really freaked out and shows one of her friends, Zach. She says that she thinks someone's playing a joke on her, but it's a really sick one and she's not sure how to take it. Zach then stays with Emma as she receives more and more messages from the kidnapper. When she threatens to call the police, the person messages saying, "If you'd like to hear his cries and screams, give him a call." I think they meant to say give them a call, and that way it was kind of a threat. If she does go ahead and call the police, then there'll be repercussions for her friend who's been kidnapped. She then receives a message saying that, wow, spoiler alert, it's been Riley that's kidnapped. I'm so surprised. I didn't see this coming at all. She finds Zach and explains to him, oh, it's just Riley. He's apparently at the bottom of the road. So Zach goes out with her because she's quite frightened. If it is Riley, why is he being so weird? He also tells her to come alone and then asks her to grab her car keys and meet him at the bottom of the road where her friend will be lying face down in a ditch. She does what the person asks. She walks to the bottom of the road, but she's got Zach with her, and then just at the bottom of the driveway of her friend's house, there is Riley Gaul, face down in the mud, face planted, pretending to be unconscious. So he kind of wakes up and has these amateur dramatics like, who? Like, what's going on? Who's texting you? And she's just not having any of it. She's like, we broke up, leave me alone, and goes back into the house, leaving Riley to kind of lick his wounds and embarrassingly walk home alone after his fake kidnapping. He then phones his friends on the way home. One of his friends, Noah, said that he received a phone call from him where he said that he was kidnapped, and Noah said, no you weren't. Noah, Riley's friend, said that this was not an unusual thing for Riley to do. He was kind of a compulsive liar and quite an attention seeker, so he just kind of went along with it, but deep down he knew that the kidnap had been completely false. Riley was refusing to call 911 and didn't want to involve any police, so therefore if it was such a serious attack and you were so scared for not only your life but the life of Emma, who this person was targeting, why wouldn't you contact the police? Because it's not real, because you're in a fantasy land. The next morning, Emma arrives home from staying at her friend's house, and this is on the November 19th, which is on the Saturday. She's getting herself ready to meet her mum later on, and she sees out of the corner of her eye from the window someone dressed in all black kind of crouching over to the driveway, and it's like a weird kind of, it's almost like a kind of feral run, as if they're like darting, trying not to be seen, like an absolute creeper. So when Emma gets to the door, she quickly locks the door and looks out of the peephole, and she can see someone running up to the front door. She runs to the back of the house, and then all she can hear is someone pounding on the door and ringing the doorbell incessantly. She's absolutely petrified at this point, and bizarrely enough, and obviously we can never ask Emma these questions now, but Emma then doesn't phone the police, she doesn't call her mum or dad or any of her friends. She texts Riley Gaul and she says to him, "I hate you, but I need you." Riley says, "I'm coming, I'm speeding, just give me a minute," as if he already knows that something scary's happening at the house. When he arrives at the home, she opens the door and miraculously the intruder, or the attempted intruder, is now completely gone. Riley said he couldn't see him and he never saw anyone run away from the house. That's because it was you, and you can't see yourself now, can you, Riley? Emma's highly emotional at this point and she really doesn't think that it's Riley, and I know that seems really weird to believe that, but she didn't feel like he would be this unhinged. Like, someone banging on the door, like what would have happened if she'd answered the door? So Riley is there comforting her and is assuring her that hopefully it's just going to all blow over. Maybe it's someone targeting her, maybe it was the alleged kidnapper, and she starts to kind of buy into the whole kidnapping scenario at this point. Emma's mother Jill was expecting Emma to meet her, and when she didn't arrive, she flies into a panic mode because she understands that the whole kidnapping scenario from the night before has left her in a bit of a fright. So she drives home and then finds Riley and Emma talking to each other on the lawn of their property, and she's initially quite angry. She speaks to Emma and says, "We said he wasn't allowed back in the house or near the house. You two aren't meant to be hanging out. Could Riley please leave?" And Riley's quite weird and ballsy and says, "No, I'm here to help." Of course you are, mate. But her mum, luckily Jill being a good mum, is like, "No, I can take it from here. Please leave." Emma at this point, talking to Jill and telling her the whole story, is convinced it was a random burglar or intruder with sinister motives, but Jill, just as a mum, knows better. She knows this was Riley. How did he turn up on the scene so quick? And is it not a wee bit strange that her life has been completely normal for the last few months while he's been away at college, but all of a sudden the one weekend he comes home, there's kidnapping, there's home intruders, it's all kicking off. Her mum and dad are really concerned at this point, and they decide that on Sunday the 20th of November they're going to take her to and from work just to make sure she's okay. They've had a conversation and they definitely know that this was Riley, and they're really worried about what would have happened to their daughter had she answered the door that day and not reached out for Riley. So they say they're just going to drop her off and pick her up in case this intruder is stalking her or is someone unknown, because at this point Emma wouldn't listen to anyone that this could be Riley. On the evening of Sunday 20th of November, Emma arrived back home. Her dad gave her a lift home and said that she was starting to calm down. She was eating again, she had dinner with the family, and she seemed a little bit more calm now that everything that had happened over the weekend had died down a little bit. He said that she went into her room to do a little bit of homework, and then she spoke to one of her friends on the phone about a certain assignment and when it was due. Once she was ready to go to bed, it was around 12 a.m. and she switched off her lights and went to sleep. Now later that night at around 3 in the morning, her dad said that he heard a massive bang, and when Mark went to check on the kids, he said that Emma was fast asleep in her bed, and he went into her brother Evan's room and so was he. He thought that maybe it was just his imagination, he was fast asleep, maybe it was a bad dream, and he went back to his bed since there was no commotion in the house. This would be something he says he later regrets. On the early hours of the Monday morning, Emma's mum Jill went into Emma's room to try and wake her up for school, but she wouldn't wake up. So she was shouting her name, "Emma, come on." You know what it's like with teenagers. You practically have to like drag them out of the bed and like take the quilts off them to get them out. So she said that she just was being quite gentle, and then she got quite forceful, and then when Emma still didn't respond, she nudged her leg and said that she wasn't moving at all. So she went up to check Emma, and that's when she found Emma with really cold blue lips, and she sadly did not have a pulse. overdose. Her mum's first thought was perhaps an overdose or a suicide due to all the turmoil that had been going on between her and Riley, and she immediately called 911 to say that her daughter was non-responsive. It's so horrible. On the 911 call, her mum is literally breaking her heart, and Jill went on to say in an interview with ABC that it was just an absolute fog to her. She didn't even remember that phone call because she was in total disbelief that this had happened to her baby girl. Initially, before police had the time to analyse the scene and everything like that, they did assume she's a 16-year-old girl, healthy, cheerleader, athletic. It must have been something, maybe suicide or something accidental, or perhaps something really quick like an aneurysm. When they did assess the scene, they found that there was 2 spent shell casings on the outside of the house. There was also 2 small bullet holes entering from the outside of the house through Emma's wall in her bedroom, and 1 bullet was lodged in Emma's pillow, and 1 had actually got lodged behind Emma's ear, and it was a fatal headshot. This gave the police the idea that this was not a suicide, that someone had actually stood outside the home in the middle of the night and shot through the wall directly where Emma's head would have been laying on her pillow while sleeping. Because this person would have had to have known Emma and exactly where in the house that she slept, they knew that this was someone that knew her who had committed this murder. The name on everyone's lips at this time was Riley Gaul. Everyone in Emma's family and even Riley's friends and Emma's friends knew this had to be him, with his behaviour leading up to the crime, and even despite the fact that he then took to Twitter to leave long emotional posts in her memory, such as things like, "You know I can't be around all this right now, but I know you understand." No, she doesn't understand, Riley, because you took her life away. When police started interviewing Riley's college friends, they actually said that he'd shown a couple of them a handgun like days before the crime. They said that he'd actually gotten the gun for his own protection, and in the lead up to his alleged kidnapping, it turns out that this gun was actually stolen and reported stolen from his grandfather's collection, and he had no clue that Riley had this gun. Riley was then arrested for the murder of Emma Walker, and sadly he actually managed to post the $1 million bail, and he was out on the streets again. Investigators are also struggling to find the gun. They can't manage to track it down. They don't know where he's stashed it. He's not hidden it in his dorm room. They've searched his home back in his hometown, and they can't find this anywhere. They ask friends if they can, try and get it out of him, but he never really discusses where the gun is hidden. And he's also feeling a little bit betrayed by certain friends, especially Alex McCarthy, who was the friend who had told police about the interaction with the gun in the first place. And this is when his 2 friends, Noah Walton and Alex McCarthy, decided to help police find the murder weapon and finally put him behind the bars for good. You see, they knew he had done it because when they asked him about this gun, he said that he wanted them to go to the police and tell the police that they were high on LSD when they made those statements, therefore those would be inadmissible in court. He really kept hammering home the fact that he was innocent, but his friends knew better. They were asking him, if you have this gun and you never did it with this gun, why not just take it to the police station and they can check the ballistics and exonerate you as a suspect? But he was like, no, I just want to ditch it. I just want to get rid of the gun altogether, which immediately raised red flags within his friendship group. Police then organised some sort of undercover operation with Noah and Alex, and they mic'd them up and then placed a hidden camera inside a key ring. And then what they would do was sit the key ring on a table and film the conversation with Riley. Riley doesn't really give too much away. He's still denying that he killed her, but he does mention ditching the gun and getting it away. So they agree to go into a car together, all 3 boys, and get the gun from wherever it's hidden and then ditch it in an area called the Bluffs near the Tennessee River. On this journey, when police are tailing them in an unmarked car, they stop in at Riley's stepfather's basement where he has the gun wrapped in a black bin liner and other items in there as well. He gets the black bin liner from his stepdad's basement and he throws it in the front seat of the car. At this point, the boys are asking like, oh, let me see the gun, because they want to get it on record that they can physically see the gun in case when they get to this location, he just throws it right into the Bluffs. So the police police really want them to see this gun and make sure that it's as he says it is. Also, they want to get the gun out of Riley's possession so that his two friends aren't in immense danger and he's not armed in the car. They are secretly texting police whilst they're in the car with them and explaining where they're going and explaining what he's saying and things like that. So the police are tailing them the entire way to this location, and when the car slowly pulls in, that's when police apprehend Riley and manage to get control of the black bin bag. When they search the black bin bag, what they find is the weapon, so the murder weapon is in there, and also they find black clothes very in keeping with what the intruder from the day before was wearing. There's also even more sinister and frightening items in the bag, such as black gloves and also black duct tape. So if he had this bag on him or these items on him when he knocked on the door and was ringing the doorbell as the masked intruder, what would have happened if she'd answered the door? He literally had duct tape and murderer gloves on. That poor girl, had she not messaged him to be her saviour in her knight in shining armour, would he have just kicked the door down and gone right in? When the time for the trial comes along, the evidence is stacked up against Riley, but he manages to plead not guilty. Don't they all? His lawyer takes an interesting turn and says that he admits that his client did cause the fatal shot, as ballistics have matched up the shell casings and the bullets found to his grandfather's gun. There's no denying that. But he says that it was actually an accident that he shot her. So he says that with the whole kind of game they were playing of cat and mouse, and that she was the damsel in distress and he needed his help, he was just obsessed with being her saviour and he was obsessed with saving her. And after the fake kidnapping and then the intruder at the door, he thought, what a better way to frighten her and prove that this is all real and that she needs him than shooting through her wall into her bedroom. But the prosecution totally dismissed this because the bullets were right where her head would have been laying, and the walls look super thin. I mean, it's just like a kind of one level home, and she would have been easy prey for anyone who had that intention. The defense tried to say that he wouldn't have known that the drywall wasn't thick enough to stop the bullets. But, I mean, come on, man, you can't be that daft. Well, I mean, maybe. Police say that instead of this theory, they believe that Riley actually stalked the home from earlier that night when Emma arrived back from work, and that he waited to see her bedroom light go off, and then when he heard the house all quiet and knew that Emma was in her bed asleep, that's when he made his move and shot her exactly where he knew her head would be laying. And bizarrely enough, despite all the clothes being found on him from earlier the day before, he still denies that that was ever him and that there was a stalker. It's like, just give it up. Like, we know you're a crackpot. It's okay. The jury deliberated for a few hours and they came back with a first-degree murder charge for young William Riley Gaul. The judge then sentenced Riley to one of the longest sentences. He sentenced him to life, but he actually made a recommendation that he does not seek parole for 51 years. So Riley will be in his 70s before he's even eligible for parole. At this point, upon hearing the verdict, Emma's family just cried and held each other, and they felt some sort of closure, but it did not bring Emma back, and it still didn't explain why this senseless murder had to happen. I think because he was still not admitting it, it just meant that this was an absolute slap in the face to the family, and thank God he's behind bars because he still never came clean about the murder of Emma Walker, even as a grown-ass man. I think with this case, when I was reading it, there was moments and me, and I feel bad for saying this, but there was moments where I was like, oh, Emma, like, or Jill and Mark, like, phone the police, someone do something. There was major red flags here. I mean, the moment he was, you know, being controlling, and there was an aspect of crime being involved in this, like the kidnappings, there should have been police called. I just feel like there was an opportunity that was missed, and maybe things wouldn't have escalated to that point. It was really just a really toxic environment for both of them, and sadly he was so unhinged that he was willing to take it to the next level. I think the main thing to take from this is just look out for the signs, guys. If someone's acting like Prince Charming for a year and a half, and then all of a sudden they switch their behaviour, that is who they are. That's their mask slipping. That's what that is. A lot of people think that when they're good for such a long time at the beginning, it means that you can get that person back and you can save them. But that's not who they really were. That's just who they were pretending to be to rope your ass in. Please, anyone who's experiencing this kind of a relationship, seek help. There's many places you can contact. I will leave some contact numbers for the UK listeners out there. And if you're in America, please just go on Google. There's so many organisations. Even if you just need someone to talk to, feel free to talk to a friend, or anyone ever needs any advice, please just seek that out for yourself, because it could be your only chance. So guys, what did you think of this week's episode? It's absolutely heartbreaking what happened to poor Emma. She was such a bright light in all of our family's lives. I just think it's really, really sad, and she was snatched far too soon. Please give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our other episodes. I'm here for you on Wednesday and Fridays now. Wednesdays will be our Weirdo Wednesdays, where I will get a little bit tipsy and talk through some supernatural, some conspiracy about UFOs, all that good stuff in between. And on Fridays we'll discuss a true crime case just like today, and I love to hear your feedback in the comments, so please get involved. Hit that subscribe button. I love to see you guys every week, and when I get a little boost in my subscribers, it's so sad, but I get so excited. I'm so thankful for you all. And also, please feel free to follow me, not home. We've learned enough about that from this episode. On Instagram at Megan True Crime. I also have a TikTok page, which is at Megan.truecrime. And I'll see you on Wednesday. But just remember, stay safe, lock your doors, don't talk to strangers, and maybe let's not talk to boys who fake their own kidnapping. Just a hint. See ya!